So interesting. I call it Fit 24 because we're in the year of 2024, lesson 5, and this is 5 out of 6. So golly, it just starts to get going, and then you go, oh, I think this is over, but there is no true end. There's another round after this. We'll talk about at the end of the class. And in this group, we're talking about how to facilitate healing relationships within ourselves, with the people we live with, the people we work with, the people we know, the people we're splitting up with, the people who are around and about, and then also how to facilitate media arts. So let's carry on. All right, a definition. Always good to start with a definition. A healing or healthy relationship involves honesty. Oh my goodness gracious. We could stop right there. Emotional honesty, authentic honesty, truth, trust, respect, open communication between partners with an intention to harmonize and find unity and diversity. That's very important. We're not trying to be the same. We can't be, we don't want to be, but we want to blend. We want to harmonize. We want to appreciate our differences and connect around them. A healing relationship is dynamic, it's moving, it's changing, it's growing. And there's very little imbalance of power. Power struggle defines toxic relationship, defines the old world order. So there are changes, there's ups and downs, but in general, there's a lot of respect and there's little imbalance of power. And there's respect of independence, interdependence, and not codependence. So we could unpack the codependence. It's when we're taking on the work of other people, the feeling of other people, which actually takes away from them stepping into their own strength, their own struggle. And we make and communicate decisions. That's a big deal. We have to make decisions without fear of judgment or reprisal. Oh, that's pretty tough. If you go, well, I wouldn't have done that. Well, you could say that I wouldn't have done that, but making people wrong is very hurtful. And sometimes being mindful and careful and kind and loving is more important than being opinionated, editorial, or pushing judgment or reprisal, as you're going to get after them. So we have to learn to consult, and that's, again, a very big term, is some kind of group or one-on-one discussion, looking at issues, challenges, and threats, and looking at the common good, the higher good, as best we can. So in mindfulness, we talked a bit about having a witness, being able to see ourselves at whatever level, whatever state we're in. And so in relationship, we're now transactional. The first part of the course, eating, moving, mindfulness, is individual wellness practice. With relationship, we're now in social healing practice. And I find this to be the most challenging for the people I work with. Next. A toxic relationship, characterized by behaviors of a toxic partner or a toxic couple or a toxic group that are emotionally, mentally, socially, and physically damaging. Now, how do you know it's toxic? You feel sick. You feel down. You feel wounded. And sometimes the other person doesn't even realize that the energy that they're bringing to you, they're discharging, is toxic. So you have to go, wait a minute, this is something for us to look at. A toxic relationship, just like a food toxin or a chemical toxin, an emotional toxin, is steeped in judgment. And very often there's a lot of survival issue, a lot of me and wounds and the me first perspective. So being mindful, we see this, that people who are toxic are not as self-aware as they might be, not as considerate of other people as they could be if this is going to turn from toxic to healing. And it tends to be rather unconscious. People don't even know it. They don't see it. It tends to be unmindful. So it's characterized by interruption. And I do that from time to time. My wife said, "You can't interrupt me." I go, "Okay, thank you. Thank you." And then I have to hold my tongue and wait for her to finish. So she helps me work on not jumping in with what I want to say because I'm excited and I have something that to me is very important, but it's actually not giving her the space she needs. So we can be working through these in even a wonderful relationship, but there's not interrupting and there's no editorializing. It's a big deal where you're throwing down an opinion or a blame or a shame. Now, if it comes up, you go, whoa, let's just stop. Let's step back. Let's maybe take another look at this conversation or this dynamic. And then clearly wounds from earlier family of origin come forward. Ancestral wounds, failed relationship history that amplify tension and argument. So we all know you could have a little thing happen and have a big fuss. Well, that's just unresolved material from way back when. While a healthy relationship contributes to our self-esteem and positive energy, a toxic relation damages self-esteem and drains energy. Whew. So it's an unusual nomenclature, language, kind of perspective about healing relationship and toxic. And we're looking to build healing relationships. And sometimes we're in it with toxic people. So it's really quite a lot of commitment to do that. Next. I kind of like this one. Never let a problem to be solved become more important than a person to be loved. How about that? Would you rather be right or would you rather be loved? Well, the latter to me is a much higher kind of outcome. Never let a problem to be solved be more important than a person to be loved. Next. Rumi, Persian poet, I believe 13th century. Live life as if everything is rigged in your favor. How about that? How's that for an attitude? How about that for a mindset? Live life as if everything is rigged in your favor. Ah, Mr. Rumi, the poet. Bird on a wire. Next. No relationship is all sunshine, but two people can share one umbrella and survive the storm together. I like the umbrella image because it's a storm out there. It's a storm inside. People are going through so much. And in reflecting on this, I feel the umbrella can be faith, a shared faith. Boy, that helps a relationship. An umbrella can be shared values. You and the other people share the same goals. It can be a striving for self-growth and other growth. Oh, we lost it. All right, came back. We had a rainstorm. But a relationship that's based on the physical has a lot of problems. A relationship that's based on the material has a lot of problems. A relationship that's based on the emotional is going to have a lot of problems. So if it's not coming from the heart or the soul or the spirit, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So that umbrella are the things that really we can get back under when things are getting tough. Next. Keys to healing relationships. This is just 6 keys to a good relationship. Friendship, freedom, honesty, trust, understanding, and communication. And there's a phrase I remember from George Bernard Shaw, who was an essayist in England about 100 years ago. And he said the problem with communication is the assumption that it exists. Problem with communication is the assumption it exists. It's just people say things, but they don't hear things. And they don't agree on things. And They're kind of moving too fast on their own pace. So we can look at a good relationship with having a basis in friendship and a basis in freedom, honesty, trust, and understanding and communication. Next. Active listening skills. So I've got 3 practices for us to look at, and these are well established. Active listening is a way of listening and responding to another person that improves mutual understanding. Who are you? How do I perceive you? What do I hear you saying? Active listening is a first step to diffuse tension and conflict and misunderstanding. There's inquiry. What's going on in your world? What are you wanting that you're currently not getting? I'm feeling you're really stressed out and you're kind of pushing it out on me. What is it that's not working for you? And then it's very important. Are you willing to listen to me when I've listened to you? These one-sided relationships are toxic. And I know we all have had them where it's not give and take. It's take and take and take. And then when it's your turn to share, they're barely paying attention. And can we agree to disagree? Create ground rules of communication. I think people's behavior nowadays has gotten very poor. There's a lot of lack of respect, lack of consideration, lack of listening, all that stuff. And it's just what people learn because that's what they see. So active listening is taking the time to say, I'd like to hear what you have to say, and I will be quiet until you're done. And when you're done, you let me know. And I will actually pause, reflect, and then ask if it's my time to share. So that can be a wonderful exercise. Next. Conflict resolution. Well, conflicts happen. It's somewhat normal. It's not good, but it's normal. And it's usually about a goal orientation versus a relationship orientation. So you can see on the axis going up the importance of achieving a goal. Very much there's competing. One party seeks to satisfy interests regardless of the impact on other party. That's stepping all over people. That's toxic. Or avoiding, very common, conflict averse, one or both parties seek to suppress the conflict. Well, that's not healing, that's not useful, it's not adequate. And then on the other side, in the more collaborating, is both parties have a win in this. We look for the common good. And there's some accommodating. One party yields to the win of the other party. You know, that's important to you. I think it's fine for that to be what's going to come down for now. And then clearly there's a compromise. And I don't even like the word compromise because it sort of means giving up something. It really means unity and diversity. It really means harmony. It really means common ground. So compromise, sounds like a loss to me. Whereas finding common ground is a win. Both parties win and give something and acknowledge the other person. So we'll talk a little bit about how you find yourself in conflict and how that works and how you work through that to create a healing relationship. Next. I think this is maybe the key, active listening, big key, conflict resolution, or some people call it nonviolent communication, but forgiveness practice. And there's a simple practice we can do to cultivate forgiveness. Any time of day, any day of the week, any moment we need to. First, we acknowledge what we feel. And in some cases, we may feel shame or revenge or embarrassment or remorse or guilt or doubt or mistrust or hurt or fear, you name it. But these things happen, they're real, they're legit, they come up. And we sit with it, we acknowledge it. And then we forgive ourselves for being human. That's a big deal. Being human is to be vulnerable, it's to be sensitive, it's to be clueless, and to be mindful. Then, in the spirit of not wallowing in the pain, we let go and make a fresh start. Now, it's not 100%, or the forgiveness of someone who harmed us may be a daily practice. It may be over and over and over again. And there's this tendency to say, well, haven't I forgiven enough? And you'll know when that happens because there's no charge. There's no trigger. There's no extra pain around something that happened that was toxic, was harmful, but is now in the rearview mirror. So we can let go, make a fresh start. And this is from Pema Chodron, who's a mindfulness teacher. Next. All right, facilitating. That's what we're here to learn, how to facilitate. And in a relationship group, in a relationship situation, formally or informally, we start with inquiry. What's going on? How you doing? And very often we can go to role play. Switch roles. What's it like to be you dealing with me? What's it like me dealing with you, or someone, or how I'll pretend to be your husband or your father or some male figure that you need to speak to, and you find it hard to get the words out. And breakout groups. It's great to have small discussions around relationship issues and sharing and practice. But we practice, we learn, we practice, we share, and the relationship dance is amazing. So the questions are, what does a healing or toxic relationship feel like to you? And what is a role model of a healing relationship that you look at and go, that's pretty darn cool? And of course, there's still that umbrella to cover you when there's difficulty, internal, external. And what's a toxic relationship feel like to you? That's important. What does it feel like? What's it feel like to be in a toxic relationship? It feels toxic. And then what are issues to address to turn a toxic relationship into a healing one? Well, it's a hard piece of work, but it's a good piece of work. We'll work on issues around boundaries, around respect and attitude, and often around substance or behavioral abuse. People who are not able to be present and deal with difficulty and pain and lack of integrity will hit on alcohol, drugs, food, other issues. And that gets in the way of the relationship. And commitment. When I'm with somebody, I go, even though you're having a lot of difficulty, you really want to be together? What's the payoff? What brought you together? What's the outcome you seek to regain or achieve together? And if there's commitment, there's room for wonderful growth. And typically it takes facilitation. When stressed in relationship, how do you respond and how could you respond? Because we say, oh, I blew it. I got angry at my kid. I threw a fit. I did something harmful to myself or somebody else. Okay, it happens. It really does. That's where the forgiveness comes in. Boom, let's do it. Let's do it and do it and do it. And then, well, how could you have been different? And that's how we learn from real personal examples. And then the questions. What do you want? What do you need? What do you require that you're not getting at this time? It's really good. What do you want? Oh, I want to be happy. What do you need? Oh, I need to take some responsibility. I need to be more honest. And what do I require that I'm not getting? That's deep. And it's usually personal. It's not that I need the other person to change. It's like I need to be more true to myself.
Maybe we can take a moment to see if there's any comments or questions anyone wants to make so far while we Dr. B back. Does anyone have any thoughts on anything that was shared?
I'll text him.
These seem like great questions to have around, like when we feel things going the wrong direction, like, oh, let me double check those questions. What do I need? What am I feeling? boy, if we could get in that habit, it would de-escalate things so quickly. Really good questions.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good questions.
Has anyone been able to catch themselves and do that? Kind of curious. Or if anyone has a good method for when like recognizing like, uh-oh, I'm going the wrong way.
Well, I don't have a good method. I was just going to say that I was noticing, well, as he was reading, I was thinking about how extremely difficult this is to do in real time when emotions and energy is all a part of the picture, but that I think you have to prepare in advance for these situations so that you can maybe bring them to bear on a real live interaction, because it's not easy.
I was just gonna say going back to mindfulness training, if you're in relationship with somebody and you can, when I feel my body start to go haywire, I know something's up. I know I'm about to head down the wrong path, and, breathe. And both with my partner and my kids, that's really, really important in catching myself from going haywire or saying I need a break, or, my body's worked up.
So the body awareness helps you catch it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have to say I'm the same way. I think that the when I manage my stress, because when I'm stressed, I'm more likely to be reactive. And so when I manage my stress and make that a priority, I'm able to be more mindful and intentional, and even notice if I'm getting defensive, or just noticing that my body's reacting. And then for me, that's sort of like grist for the mill, because it's usually an indicator that something is being triggered in me. And what I've found to be most effective is to just go in and do the inner child work and healing that wounding, so that I can show up as an adult in my relationship rather than that needy, reactive child. And so I think that it's a great opportunity. I think our relationships are sort of like a PhD into knowing yourself, right? Because if you're mindful and aware, then that's sort of, you acknowledge, well, look at what I said, look at how I'm showing up or not showing up, without judging yourself, or but in total love. That's been my experience.
And Christina, I think you were had a comment you wanted to share as well.
Well, the energy thing is very fascinating for me, because I like lots of YouTube videos. I bounce around philosophy, and there was this interesting person that spoke, and I think it's I forgot the last name, and they speak about our energy, and if we're able to raise our level of energy, we're actually raising ourselves to a higher echelon of universal learning. And it's really about taking that emotion away. And, it sounds, oh yeah, let's just take the emotion away. But when I look at the chart, right, there's a chart that shows if you feel anger, if you feel shame, or if you feel this or feel that. And ultimately you want to feel, you know what I'm talking about, right, Christina? You've seen the energy chart.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually correlates with universal thinking, this universal tapping in to a broader understanding of what's really going on. Whether or not it's, I don't know, is it true? I find that when I visually see that map, I know that I don't want to be in the shame or in the anger or this, because I want to be able to tap into a higher realm of thinking, because I never want to be back where I was. So it's all about, really focusing on it. And that map, though, I'll email it to you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's visually, it was fascinating because it really helped me to get back on track.
Oh, that would be fantastic. And thank you everyone so much for everything that you shared.
Let me
I
say
see
this,
we've got
guys,
Dr. B
post it
back.
when you have good articles in YouTube's, post it in
Okay.
the group. That email, we're sort of like past that email
Oh,
thing.
okay. Yes, I'm getting up to speed.
Okay, I'm like that too.
Yeah.
A funny
All
thing,
right, so
I
Ed, you want
ended
to go back to
ended
the
my
slides?
slide. I'll pass to Christina in a minute, but I ended my slide with a little note that Maria gave me. And then when I came back, Maria was speaking. So I wanted to like, beep, have Maria just chime in a little bit. Uh-oh. But I'm done with this. I just think, you know, what do you need? And then what would inspire you to lean into the practice? And so it's the inner work, it's partner practice, it's charting incidences. That's important. It's like, make a log, make a report. This is what's been going on, because the other person's clueless. And then this is how I was going to flip it to Maria, is elevate your appreciation, vibration, and imagination. And Maria, could you explain that? Because she dropped that at my house the other time when we were together, and it's just like, whoa, I like that. And I believe Christina actually spoke to it. It's that really there's an energy. And
Absolutely. Yeah. Christina actually spoke to it. And,
that's
and
great.
so when we are in a place of appreciation, we're raising our vibration. And when we're raising our vibration, then we're able to see things from actually a higher perspective.
Yes.
And it's sort of like we're aligned now with our soul, and we can observe our human. It's a mindful practice. And you can, at that point, then you can experience more love, more compassion, more forgiveness. And it's a wonderful way to not only help yourself to heal. We know when you're experiencing all those positive emotions energetically, vibrationally, and even there's a whole science of happiness, right? That it affects our healing process, but it also affects how we're showing up in the world. And so having a good appreciation practice, a gratitude practice. I love, you know, what do you love? You know, I love the blueberries I had for breakfast. I love that I had lunch with my daughter today, whatever it is. But that will build momentum and then create a higher vibration, and really affect how you're showing up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to jump on, you're absolutely 100% right, because I've really been practicing this so much so I'm now learning how to sleep by myself. So I love my YouTube videos at night. So I think I've been brainwashing myself. And because it's been now 6 months, and I was a frantic, nervous Nelly all the time, and panic and anxious. But because I've been doing this, and they say that it takes a while when you say what your wants and desires out to the universe, and you're consistent, it takes a while for that wheel to really start generating.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good. Yeah, you're planting seeds in your consciousness, and then you're watering the seeds, and the plants are coming up, and you're harvesting. So we're going to talk more in breakout group about these things. It's certainly a wonderful, rich topic, and we can appreciate our tormentors.
Trying to find that picture.
Appreciate our boogeymen and women. Appreciate our struggle, and then, you know, bring forward something wonderful that changes it. And we can, and we have power to do that. Christina, I'd love to pass it over to you and shift into our arts conversation.
All right, sure thing. So yeah, kind of tying in with this idea of doing, you know, role-playing exercises, even with partners in practice, you know, that speaks to even the power of what media arts, particularly even just movies or plays, can do for us. Because when we have stories that are acted out in front of us, it serves as a great kind of third person objective perspective with which we can look at an issue, whether it's an issue that's happening in our personal life or even like a social justice issue happening in the world. Whatever it is that the story is acting out, we're able to have a level of detachment from it and just look at it in terms of like a fishbowl. And the story is being acted out. Different characters, different actors are playing different roles, and the characters are undoubtedly faced with some sort of a situation and then choices that they need to make within that situation. And what we can do is we can look at that scenario and look at that story being acted out in front of us and say, what resonates with me right now? What is it that I'm seeing in this story that I can actually relate to in my own life? Have I seen this? Have I heard this? Is there something familiar about this? And when I think about the choices that the characters make in their relationships with other characters or in the actions that they have throughout their story, Have I found myself in similar situations? Have I made the same choices, or have I made different choices or done different actions? And how can I even compare a little bit of what I've learned from what they did in the film or the play versus what I've, done in my real life? So, the film and television in particular can really be a powerful again way to sort of witness. We always talk about art as a form of witnessing, that we witness and so that we can learn from how the art is speaking to us. So we're able to witness these stories and learn about relationship dynamics and things that are happening in this world and how we show up with people and in our situations. So film, just in general, or again, any kind of media arts, serves as an important means of cultural communication. It can highlight shared human struggles and provide a space for us to, again, pause, witness, reflect on our place and purpose in the world. And there's lots of different ways that you can engage in media arts, from watching films to actually making videos. Gone are the days when you have to be a professional filmmaker with a camera and an editing room. Like, you can literally pick up your phone and use it to shoot moving images. So it's so accessible now to be able to make short-term videos. There's still photography, and then other types of media arts, doing podcasting, any sort of computer, digital graphic design, art, or interactive media. So there's lots of different ways that we can kind of play around with storytelling. It's not just limited to photography or film, lots of different ways that we can tell stories. And one of the things that I like to do, I come from a film background. I teach film studies at two of the local colleges in my area. So kind of focusing more on film just because that's what I do and my big passion in life. But one of the things that I love to do with film is engage people in a discussion around those learnings. Because again, the idea is, okay, we're witnessing, we're learning. Now, how do we process what we're learning? How do we take away those learnings? And so I like to create discussion questions for participants that I view a film with, and I sort of break it up into three different categories. And the first category that I use is what I call the what, which is like identification of the topic. So if we're doing, for example, a conversation around healing relationships, and we're watching either film clips from a film or maybe a short film or a television episode, and we're kind of examining the relationships that are happening in the story, I might start out by first talking about just healing relationships in general. So, like, what are all those things that make up a relationship? So, even some of the things that Dr. B mentioned, active listening. Okay, so active listening, really huge ingredient, really important thing to have in a relationship. Being able to recognize when we might be defensive, keeping ourselves in check when we feel like maybe the relationship is not going well or the conversation is not going well. So you start kind of identifying what are things that are key to being in a healthy relationship. What are some things that I need from the person that I'm in relationship with? And what do I think they might need from me? So your first category is just sort of making those identifications. Then you've sort of set the framework for what it is you want to look for when you're watching the film. So I start out with this set of questions before the screening of the film. Then I screen the film, and we've got an idea of our mind of what it is we're looking for. So then we come back, and after we've screened the film together, so then we do a deep dive into the topic and maybe asking some probing questions. When character A said this to character B, how did they say it? How did they show up in that moment? Was there a different way they could have approached it? And you can brainstorm with your participants. If we were to be actors and actually reenact this scene and do this scene all over again, what are some different ways it might have gone? So you can sort of identify what's working in this relationship in this film, what didn't work in the relationship with the characters in the film, and you sort of just ask probing questions about specific incidences that happened in different scenes, to go a little bit deeper into that particular topic. And then you can ask, my third category is sort of bringing that to like a larger context. So you've kind of got like the micro in that smaller conversation around what happened in the film, then you bring that to the macro level and you think, okay, how does this model for us in general the type of relationships that are healthy for us to have? When I leave this conversation and I've learned from witnessing this film and seeing this fishbowl story, now how do I actually apply that when I'm going back out there into the world and I'm continuing to show up for people and be in relationship with people, practice what it is that I learned in the film? So these are kind of the three general categories that I would try to engage participants in before and after the screening of a film. So to give some specific examples, again, those were sort of breaking out the categories because you may have different topics that you're looking at to screen a film. Specifically for the topic of healing relationships, I have in that first bucket, what are examples in the film of healthy communication, active listening, collaborative problem solving? So we would talk about that. Then after the screening of the film, one of the samples that I have for you in lesson 5 in our online learning platform, it's a 20-minute short film from Canada called The Way of Tea. And I think this is a beautiful example, actually, of two people that learn how to build a healthy relationship with one another. And so, for that particular film, if you get a chance to view it, I have the link included in a document in the lesson 5 folder. But this was a question that I kind of pulled out of that particular film because you have two men that come from very different cultural backgrounds, and their cultural background is causing a little bit of friction in their relationship and their understanding of who the other is. So I thought of the question, do we think that positive human characteristics such as love, empathy, and compassion have the ability to cut across gender, race, ethnicity, or economic backgrounds? How might that be the case? So that would just be like one example of a question that I thought of in relationship to this particular story in that 20-minute film. And then that bigger, larger question, what does this film model to us about building relationships with others and how relationships can be healing? So how do I practice what I learned from this particular story out in the world? So that's just some basic categories that you might play around with when you're facilitating film discussions with others. Um, would love to hear any thoughts or comments, or even for those that have maybe just seen a film with someone and maybe you've gone to the coffee shop after the movie theater and kind of chatted about what you learned from the film. If you have any insights of anything that you want to share based on those experiences you've had having those conversations, I'd love to get some comments.
I like to say I love that model, Christina. I think it's wonderful to just really, films can bring up for me so many things. And when my husband and I watch a film, we frequently will talk about it afterwards, sometimes the next morning. And, it sometimes brings up triggers for ourselves, or, it's really interesting how it's been great for me to just even heal some deeper wounds, but I love, doing that, facilitating that in a group is a wonderful idea. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have any other thoughts or comments they want to share?
I love the idea of approaching doing healing relationship work with people by actually watching a movie, because really it's through stories that we learn other people's stories, and through vicariously living out other people's stories that we can find solutions. And I love that. And especially in a group, I don't know how it would be to facilitate a group, but it sounds really, really wonderful.
Great. All right. Well, I'll turn it back over to Dr. B for our breakout groups.
Well, just a couple of points here. We're human beings. learning to be human beings, remembering how to be human beings, and observing human beings do unhuman things. And some people think that's what humans are. They're just beasts that are beating up on each other. And a lot of the media represents very low level activity. It's very toxic. So I'm grateful that when we brought up our daughter, we didn't have TV. And our daughter read books. And our daughter could communicate good thoughts. And she was engaged in meaningful communication, which is the nexus of relationship. And I see a lot of people who don't have the ability to really, communicate authentically or talk about things of higher values than just sort of, politics, money, and fashion. And so I think using media is super cool. Also monitoring our media, that we're not trashing ourselves out, just like food, monitoring our food, that we're not trashing ourselves out with bad food because it's there. And maybe we get a hit on it, or people get some buzz on certain things. And then what Christina Kinder said is very relevant, is study, and look for high role models. I was listening to a Bob Marley show the other day. It's his birthday today. And his son Ziggy said, I said, Dad, you're going to die now. You got cancer. Is there any words of wisdom? And maybe this is urban myth, but this is what Ziggy said. He said, son, when you're up, bring me up with you. And when you're down, don't bring me down, but look up to me and I will pull you up. How about that? When you're up, bring me with you. When you're down, don't bring me down, but look up to me and I'll pull you up. And I think that's how we can be, because there's so much downness. Holy cow. And sometimes it's our family members, it's our kids, it's our parents, it's our relatives. And they're very down and they're very hurt and they're very toxic. And we have to really be very mindful about holding space and holding love and giving them a lifeline, but not getting pulled down, or else we'll do the same thing and then it gets kind of messy down there. But
I think you make a good
go ahead.
I think you make a good point too, Dr. B, that there's media is very similar to nutrition, and there's good food and bad food. There's good, I would consider maybe healthy media or unhealthy media. And I don't think it's limited to film or TV. There's actually quite a bit of good television. So I don't particularly frown on the watching of television, because I think it depends on what you're watching. Like the TV series The Twilight Zone, for example, has incredible moral lessons in that show. I actually consider that a very healthy educational show. So it depends on what you're watching, but I think the point to be made is that it's not that we look at movie watching or TV watching as, it doesn't have to be dichotomous. It's more a case of, if we start to experience a story being acted out in front of us, sort of like we sort of sense of like, oh, this feels like sugar, or it feels like vegetables. Like, is the media we're consuming, does it feel like sugar, or does it feel like vegetables? And if we start feeling unhealthy when we're watching it, then we can turn it off and find something healthier. But yeah, I do advocate that I think media can be very educational, if we're looking at it with that lens. So I just wanted to note that.
Yeah, no, Christina, you're right about that. The way you said it, when I watch TV shows, I used to like horror films and everything's scary. I can't do it anymore because I get a feeling. I get this strange energy feeling. You say, sugar, or is it vegetables? So for me, it's like, does it give me the pit in the stomach? Maybe I should go the other way, right?
That's very good. Well,
No,
let's hit breakout groups of 3, and let's go for 12 minutes. And I'd love each person to share about the relationship situation you're in. What's one that would be interesting and somewhat challenging, and how you can bring wellness to it and wellness practice to it. And then also, if time permits, look at media and how there's media has influenced you in a particular way, or even in a difficult relationship. You go, hey, here's something we can watch together and unpack and discuss together how it's relevant to us. So if you would put us in groups of 3, We'll go 12 minutes. Ooh, there they are. I'd love for you to unmute and share a bit of what came up for you in discussing relationship and media. Just a kernel of good food for you. And particularly someone who hasn't shared yet today. Love to hear from each of us. Hi, Chris. You're coming back. Coming on back. Paul, give us a share, if you would. You're muted still, buddy.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. We talked about a lot of good things today. We talked about active listening. One of the books I really like from active listening is by a FBI negotiator named Chris Voss. It's called Split the Difference. I would recommend it for anybody that likes reading and is interested in the topic. It helps a lot to listen. It helps so much. We carry energy. And when we listen, we're like accepting other people's energy. And often we want to pause their energy and express our own. I think that energy is so important. We talked about brain waves earlier. We talked about how those are emotions. And when we're in certain emotions, it affects our mechanics of our body. Maybe we're feeling impatient. Maybe we're breathing faster. We're not processing as well. We don't think as well. We don't make as good decisions. Maybe you miss opportunities for that. Maybe you're calmer. You're breathing better. You're listening. You're able to make healthier choices. It affects your life in positive ways. I do think that we transfer energy. I think that I was just talking with this, I think it was Vido. I think we're like tuning forks. I think when you come into a room and you have energy, you transfer that energy so easily, and it could be positive or negative. You could uplift someone and you could empower them, or you can drain them and you can repel them. And I think, noticing our brainwaves and our decisions is a way to change, to kind of rewrite and recalibrate our mindset is so powerful. To just breathe slower, that's a good start. It helps us think clearer, helps us rewrite our narratives that we go through. And it flattens the grooves of our instincts. So the more that we can breathe and calm down, I think that we create these roots and knee-jerk responses to how we act. And if we don't have to live like that, we can stop for a moment and take different paths, but it is a decision you have to make. And I think that it's good to just do your best to kind of calibrate yourself with people that you think are sharing good energy. If you're spending time watching poor movie content, or you're spending time hanging out with people that are complaining all the time and they're not at all actively trying to grow, it becomes difficult to hold your cup full of that positive energy when there's toxicity around you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's good. I like the tuning fork. I'm going to remember that one. Who else would love to share? Relationship, media arts. Yeah, you do.
So yeah, I want to say that my energy is pretty low today because I'm sort of under-rested, and the previous kind of commitments, and especially very big class that I have earlier in the day, but other things. So I'm very aware that when my energy is low or I'm under-rested, and basically my life, my vital force, my chi and my prana is low, the best things that I can do is rest and breathe and do my breath practice. And those are the two things. And then the potential for me to get triggered is much higher.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, I found myself in a room with Paul and Nagin, and I was very inspired by Paul.
Very good.
because his energy actually lifted me up and brought me back. Like I came back literally into my body
Nice.
through that conversation and having to connect in that way. Because I was just thinking today, like my back is misaligned and my and I was just like, oh my God, I feel terrible. So yeah, I know what to do, and I know that my triggers are going to be very high when I'm in this state. So I got to care for myself. And with many next piece is many toxic relationships, I just move away. I've lost a lot of people in my life because I cannot be around that kind of toxicity anymore. And then with the people I love who have wounding and trauma and other challenges, like I hang in there and we have a good old fashioned fight and we calm down and we work it out. And it's not easy, but that's kind of my take on this.
Good one. Couple more. What do you say, Amber?
Yeah, I was talking with Tom.
Yeah.
I was saying that I joined this because I had started developing coursework around doing group facilitation, and that this has been touching on all those, and that relationships being such an important one, but I have been hesitant to want to work with it because it's so triggering for people. And that I sort of shy away from that, but it was nice to see like how I might take more of a bird's eye view, sort of making as distinguishing between a therapist and a facilitator and how that might change. So super helpful to start pulling that apart a little bit.
Nice. Who else? I can always call on you. Okay, Jennifer, pick it up.
Hello. All right. So I was in a group with Johan and Christina, and we talked about just getting aware of our bodies when we notice we're starting to get triggered. Christina was saying how she's always been a barefoot walker and just realized recently that that's a thing, earthing. And it was her reminder to do that more often when she needs it. And just being aware of ourselves. And Johan brought up the very good reminder that it's not just up to one of us. Like as a community, we need to do this together, because his example was if you have a family and it's all a mess and there's one person trying to handle it all and be centered and do all the right things, like other people need to start getting on board. They can't carry the whole load. And so it is a reminder that we have responsibility to each other, because it's a very me society, and all the Instagrams and the selfies, and it's easy to forget that we need each other. So yeah, that was about it.
Very good.
We had fun. I always love these breakout groups. It's so nice to get to
I
know
think they're
everybody
important
better.
because we have meaningful conversations in
Yeah.
small group. It's hard to do in a big group.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, let's kind of start to put a bow on today, and let's talk about where we are. We're learning about facilitating integrative wellness. The Bauman model is remarkable. It's looking at really aspects of GEM, and all the aspects fit together, and all the aspects work together. And most of us are looking at one or two parts, but not looking at the whole. And as we go from personal practice with food, movement, and mindfulness, we can bring that to be more clear, more strong, more grounded, more healthy, more human, to bring it into social reality. And social reality is very chaotic. And it's all kinds of competition and trying to get our attention and buy this, try this, do this, and all that. So to be a facilitator is to have a space of neutrality. It's a big deal. When you're facilitating, you're neutral. You're creating a space. You're holding a space. It's a safe space. It's a kind space. It's a brave space. And there's room for people to be who they are. And there's room for them to cry and to feel and to express. And I guess the fear people have about being in group is, well, what if somebody really flips out? Well, it can happen. I've been in groups where people have really gone through a catharsis. And if it happens, I say, let me talk to you privately. Okay, that's just the way to go. If somebody has it, you just say, can I take you aside and can we go for a walk or can we just hang out and be? And then I go, what's going on? And people go, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. And it's wonderful because most people don't have anyone to care for them and to listen to them and to love them. And so as we're in relationship and we grow in relationship, we step out of our own needs and step into really being there for other people. And then to have a good relationship, a healing relationship, it's give and take, back and forth. And if we don't say what we need in a relationship, what we require, we're codependent. And people will be very happy to take advantage of our kindness and goodness. But it's not good. It's not healthy. We have to model positive, balanced communication. And we have to say enough's enough because that can go on too. People go on too long. And it's hard because we don't want to be rude, but sometimes it's like, well, I've had as much energy as I can handle right now. And I hear where you're at. I send you my best, my love. But healing is really encouraging people to step into their own centered being. And they can do it. And as they do it, they get really happy and they tell you how they succeeded. And you go, that's great. That's great. I knew you could do it. So it's an art form. Being in relationships, an art form. And if there are relationships that are chronically damaged, you don't relate to the damage as much as you relate to the possibility of having a good moment, having a good meal, having a good walk, staying present time. Because when we're in present time, we're building new circuits and not giving advice. Do you hear that? Mm-hmm. Not giving advice. It's just being there, asking people to sort out their own stuff, figure out their own needs, make their own goals, get after it, and then you can share the same for yourself. And then pick and choose who we spend time with, because we are as good as the people we spend time with. We are as happy as the happiness of the people we spend time with. And we are as miserable as the misery of the people we spend time with. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean just to run away and hide from everything, because there's certain important relationships that we have. We have certain karmic relationships. So showing up for somebody who's really meaningful and deep, we do show up, but we also know it's a long process. But having times when we're quiet, times when it's simple, and we're not reiterating the past excessively, because boy, that can bring you down in a heartbeat. Mm. And we're not therapists. I'm not a therapist. I'm a healer. I'm a mentor. I'm a teacher. And it's an educational process. We are in an educational learning process. So taking ourselves to account every day, looking at the ways we showed up to co-regulate others. Co-regulation means we set a tone and other people matched our tone. And looking at a way we were with other people when our tone was down and we found someone whose tone was up, and we elevate it to meet their tone. That's co-regulation. And a lot of it goes on unconsciously, but if there's not pillars within us, we're in trouble. And one concept, just to kind of build this on, is that family is a fortress. And it needs to be strong, and it's worth working on. And if the original family is a mess, make new family. Because we're all part of this social being. We live in a social world. And if we're not getting our needs met in one family, we can look to acknowledge other family and really appreciate people, because that appreciation raises the vibration. And even appreciating suffering and appreciating hardship, but appreciating taking responsibility versus shirking responsibility. So I'm just going to end with a little blessing. May we all be blessed. May we all be protected. May we all be guided. May we all move towards our highest good. May we all find relationships of value and love. And we bring this integrative wellness model forward. And may it be easy. May it be happy and joyful. And can this expand and grow? Namaste. Namaste. Now, before we go, next week is the last of the series. And there was an email that went out today saying, if you want to do your fit, get your homework in, great. You can become, you completed the course. I haven't seen much art. So I'd like people to work on and catch up on the creative arts, because the integrative model has art with practice. And you can do it. You can go back to lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. The directions are there. You can follow them, and it'll make you happy. It's good. And share it with other people. And then when this 6-week class ends, we have one more series in terms of this integrative wellness facilitator series. There's 3 parts to it. There's ways to be well. Those are the 6 practices. There's the facilitator training and what we call a specialty course. So if you want to be an integrative wellness facilitator, there's 4-class specialty course in either affordable nutrition or the artist within, or both. And in doing it, you'll be in a class with regular people, and you'll be observing how we facilitate these classes so that you can, again, become more skilled at facilitation. And then if you want to be an integrative wellness facilitator, you'll do a practicum. And a practicum is you'll teach a class, and you'll do it with a partner. And there'll be one person doing the wellness practice and one person doing the arts. And there's no rush. You don't have to do it in a short period of time, but you can be thinking about it, and we'll provide you with these slides. We'll provide you with the activities. You don't have to make it up. But you could be thinking about, how can I get 4, 5, 6, 7 people in a room so I can practice, and who do I want to practice with? This is where the partner thing shows up strong. You can ask people, can we do a practice together? And it'll be on Zoom and it'll be recorded. And if we can participate and come to watch, we will. But that's sort of how this continues, because watching us and being in a room is one thing. And then leading your own group, even though you go, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, but that's how it goes. And it's actually pretty darn cool when you're sitting in the big chair and you're not alone. You have a co-pilot, or you have a partner and a companion. If you have questions, you can call me, text me, email me, Zoom me. I can explain it again. And the practice is my side, the arts is Christina's side. The outcome of this whole thing will lead to work opportunities. That's important. We're looking to get work, and we're looking to have teams of facilitators. So as we get contracts, we have people locally and virtually who can deliver services. That's the big plan. So there you are. Be well. Next class is service and justice. And we have a guest facilitator, Hillary, will do a part on service and justice with us. So till then, have good relationships. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Wow.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
you.
everyone. See you next
Bye-bye.
week.
Yeah.
Thank you. See you
Bye.
next time.
Dr. Bowman,
Yeah.
the
The
first
good
class
one.
that you said, where do we find that? If I'm interested in taking, I think you said something about Be Well.
The course. There's
Yes.
a
what is-
course called Affordable Nutrition and a course called The Artist Within.
No,
Well,
I mean
It was
the
an
first.
email that got sent out today with how
Okay.
you do it.
No.
So
Ways to be well. It's called Ways to be Well. There'll be when
that's
is the next one?
first course that'll come around again in this next term.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you kind of jumped in the middle, but that's okay.
Okay.
They'll all happen.
Okay. That's what I was asking, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It was
Bye.
wonderful
Bye.
chatting with you, Helen. Great getting to know you.
Me too. Me too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Helen, can I
Yes.
call you? Because we
Sure.
met a long time ago.
Wait.
I don't know if you remember, but I really
my wife.
always remember you.
Oh,
So-
thank you. Yes, you were so gracious to allow me into your home. I remember very well.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put my phone number in the chat, or do you have?
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do
Yes,
that.
I would love that. Because I'd love
Great.
to talk with you more.
Okay.
Oh, it's so lovely to hear you again. I always ask of you.
Yeah.
I remember, and it was a long time ago too, but you stick out in my mind.
About 10 years or so, 10, 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
2009.
Oh, more than that then. 15.
Yes.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8.
You see it in the chat yet?
2,
Not
5.
quite yet.
Okay, I'm sending it. I just sent it to everybody. It's okay.
All right, there
Okay.
it is. I can get it
All
too.
right, Helen, I'll call you.
Great. Thank you so
Really
much.
want to talk
Bye-bye.
with you.
Okay, much love, much love.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.